So hello, this is Antoine Vincent from Chateau Fuissé, southern Burgundy. So it's a pleasure to introduce myself. So I introduced Chateau Fuissé, which is family property back to the 19th century, to the family business. I'm the 5th generation there. Let's talk about the 2016 vintage, which in southern Burgundy was quite a challenging vintage and a capricious vintage, because we get some hail, but very early in the season, which is rather unusual because we get hail on the 13th of April. So that's to say the canes were even the buds were very small. So it devastated the buds, but of course the grapes were perfect in the end. But of course the quantity of the vintage was very low, and we made in total less than half a production. In some plots, we lost mostly 95 to 100% of the production, depending where the plots are located. But we have the chance at Chateau Fuissé to have a very scattered vineyards, that's to say very small plots all around, which is quite a kind of insurance in a way. So we made in the end only half a production. So it was quite challenging so far because the small crop. After that, it took about 3 weeks for the vines to recover themselves to grow in the perfect way. And it was also not that easy vintage due to the weather conditions, which were sometimes wet, sometimes dry. So we get powdery mildew, downy mildew. So it was difficult to fight against all these diseases. So it was an exhausting vintage for the people working in the fields. And considering all these aspects, what I did, I decided to look very closely at the maturity of fruit. And I decided to pick rather early, according to the small crop per vine, of course. And I started the harvest on the 15th of September, which is rather early and rather unusual for according to the vintage. But I was looking for the perfect balance between the wines, between acidity and the fruitiness. I didn't want to go to over maturity, and so that's why I preferred to harvest in between 12.5 alcohol degrees, and to have a balance of 4.5 grams of acidity in order to have this perfect match in between acidity and power. And I started the harvest with the famous Le Clos of Chateau Fuissé, which is our monopoly of the Chateau Fuissé, because it's a clay and limestone soil. So it had already the full maturity and the bodiness and the structure in the wines. So that's why I decided to pick this first in order to preserve the freshness of it. And I ended with the Marie Antoinette wines, which are located upper in the hill in the village of Vergisson, which means with much more minerality, and of course, which needs more time to be picked. So it takes about 2 weeks in between the beginning of the harvest and the end of the harvest for the Vincent wines. So in order to have the same philosophy of winemaking, that's to say preserving the freshness, the natural freshness, but looking for maturity in the end. So I think the result will be very nice. And what I did a total classic vintage, that's to say batonnage, 2 batonnage per weeks, quite a long élevage period. And we just bought all the wines at the end of 2017. So maybe you're going to have the chance to taste them. So I hope you're going to enjoy the 2016 vintage at Chateau Fuissé and Vincent.